If you ask my youngest daughter, she's like, my mom works at Dunk. Like, it doesn't register with her that, well, we own Dunk.
How do you find balance of like being a mom? And now there might not actually be balance between
There's no balance. I feel like the balance is in my relationship with my husband. And I'm not afraid to fail. One thing I got from my dad, Coach Siwaki Levi, is your perception of me doesn't change my perception of me. In Hawaii, it's definitely how resourceful you are versus your resources.
You didn't know how you were going to make it happen, but you did. Like, where does that come from?
Okay, I might cry.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Casualtea Podcast. I'm your host, CreditKona. If you're new here, you can stream the Casualtea Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can also watch it on YouTube and also Spotify. Today in this studio, we have a dear friend of mine, a girl mom of 3, a wife to just one, and the quiet owner and marketing genius behind Utah's premium cookie company, Dunked Cookies. Dunked Cookies has seen great success since the launch of their first physical store only last year in Saratoga Springs, Utah. Leota was raised in Kahuku, Hawaii, graduating from Kahuku High School. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having
the studio,
me.
My apartment. I guess we're just going to get started. I just want, obviously here, I know you personally as like a good friend, and over the years I've gotten to know you and how you run your business. And one thing I absolutely love about you is your mindset. You're very much like me. You're a big dreamer. Not only just a big dreamer, but we also pull the trigger on those dreams. A lot of the times people have big dreams, but then they go nowhere. But let's get started with like where you're from. Like, how did you grow up, your siblings, your home life? How was Hawaii?
Growing up in Kahuku, Hawaii was amazing. I mean, we grew up with not a lot, but you don't know that when you're a kid.
Right.
And so it kind of forces you to be creative. We were just kind of talking about this, when you don't have much, it forces you to be creative. And so, I just feel like when you don't have much, your imagination can run wild. And I'm grateful to have been raised in a home that supports that and encourages that and allows me to be, whoever I wanted to be at such a young age. And I try to instill that into my kids right now. But growing up in Hawaii was so cliche, but it was amazing because our community, like the North Shore community, I am a Red Raider for life.
Shout out. Okay, so I was not raised in Hawaii. I actually grew up in the mainland, but my family's from Hawaii. And so if you guys don't know what Kahuku is, for my viewers, Kahuku is a very, specifically high school, very viral high school, the community there, the football support. And so I got my first experience of like the championship games, and so we were like in front of the bus and waving our flags out the window the whole drive up to the stadium.
Just now? Last year?
Yeah, just last year I was there. And so just like the whole community comes out. Like on the North Shore, it's literally just one road to the city, right? And so every little town we're passing by, the community's out there like supporting. Everyone's beeping, playing music. It's a party.
Unmatched for sure.
Yeah.
And so
I always said I would wish I would have experienced life there, in high school, because I feel like it's completely different than the mainland experience.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I think of the mainland experience, I don't know. I still don't know how it was, but I think of like High School Musical and Popular Kids. We didn't have any of that. It was all fun, all love. Community goes hard, win or lose. Right. And that was something that I experienced growing up. My dad was the head football coach of Kahuku High School football team for 10 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Just going and experiencing football games and everything. It was just so fun, such an active community. So, again, best childhood I could have asked for. Yeah. I always say it's the most creative place on earth for sure, because we're so far from everything, and yet we got to make stuff work. In Hawaii, it's definitely how resourceful you are versus your resources. So
tell us about like your childhood. How'd you grow up? Like, how many siblings do you have?
I have 5 siblings, 1 sister, 4 brothers. And then
where do you fall in the line?
I'm a middle child.
Oh, okay.
But so I never heard this middle child syndrome.
I knew it.
I was like, what is that? That is I'm not that person, but because I'm the oldest girl, so I was like, I don't know what middle child syndrome is.
Okay,
but my I forget who called. They're like, oh, sounds like middle child syndrome. I'm like, Not me.
Which I think I wasn't aware of that until a couple years ago, middle child syndrome. Yeah. And for those of you who are not aware, like it's pretty much just different characteristics that we each have depending on our birth order. Yeah. And middle child syndrome, I'm like, it cracks me up because my sister for sure has middle child syndrome. For sure, always feeling left out and like just not paying attention to and just, stuff like that. So
see, I didn't have that problem at all. I was also the oldest girl.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and in a Tongan LDS household, there's a lot of responsibility that falls on the oldest girl. So I didn't feel like the middle kid. I probably felt like the oldest kid, you know. Yeah. My brothers were into football. We had sports, my sister and I. My sister's younger than me, but I feel like we had to, keep up with mom. Like we had a lot of kids, and then on top of that, we had foster kids.
Did you feel like at a certain point you were like mothering also?
Kind of, but one thing I did know when I graduated from high school, I was like, yeah, I don't want any kids because we grew up, just cooking and cleaning, like just helping around the house, just normal chaos, like normal stuff around the house. But I was just like over it. At that time, I was like, okay, no kids for me. I don't think that. Whereas my amazing sister, she took it as like, I want a big family. I was like,
right. As Polynesians, you either want a football team or you want one or two.
Yes, like. I was good on kids, but aside from how I felt, I didn't have a lot of responsibility. My parents still let me be a kid. Yeah. I just felt like when I was pulling my weight at home, it was like, all right, this is not for me. Yeah. Moving on. But I did love our home dynamic. We had dinner every single night as a family. And that's one thing that I'm failing at at home myself. But I always tell my husband, I'd love to do that too. Like no distractions. There was no TV in the kitchen or anything. So it was just my siblings and I just eating and talking about the day.
I feel like there's a migration just from, people in Hawaii in general that come to the mainland, and it's usually Vegas or Utah. Yeah. So how did you end up here and why?
Okay. So my husband and I have been dating. We started dating when I was a senior in high school. I was about to graduate. One of my best friends, Alethea. Yeah. She's related to him, my husband. I didn't know him. I didn't know he existed.
Because he was in California.
He was in California. Yes. I'm in Cuckoo. And she just, she'll correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but she just like sent pictures of her friends to her cousins, her guy cousins, almost like assigning them, here, you can have this friend. And I was like, what the heck? And so my husband got a picture of me and he kept it in his wallet for a year and told everyone I was his girlfriend. Even though I didn't know he existed.
He manifested you.
He manifested that. And so we eventually talked on the phone like maybe a year or more later. And then we got to know each other and he became my best friend over the phone because there was no social media. We used to write letters to each other and send burnt CDs.
Oh my God, the burnt CDs from LimeWire.
So nostalgic. And then we decided that, like, I was like, man, I love this guy. And I actually said it first. We talked on the phone every minute of the day. So much so that I was under my dad's plan and T-Mobile sent my dad a letter saying they're cutting him off of unlimited minutes because it was
from Hawaii
being
to the
abused.
Mainland. Oh my God.
And so they assigned my dad, who at the time, he was still a football coach and he's making calls nonstop.
Oh no.
So they capped him at 5,000 minutes. He was pissed, but he was livid.
I wonder if that is still a thing now where T-Mobile will cut people off, or is that just back in the day?
I really wish I kept a copy of that letter because I'm like looking at it, I'm like acting dumb. I'm like, why would they do that? Knowing damn well I'm like sleeping on the phone, like we would my whole prom, my senior prom, I was on the phone with him the whole time. Like I had a date. Place to start, but I was on the phone with him the whole time. But just the thought, I just remember that right now, that we got a letter in the mail from T-Mobile saying, wow, you've abused your unlimited minutes. So you get 5,000 altogether. So no free minutes at all.
Did your dad ever know it was you?
Well, it was just the two of us.
Oh, okay.
So he knew, but I think he was kind of like in denial. Like,
yeah.
Why would she be on the phone? She's a high schooler.
Not T-Mobile limiting unlimited minutes.
I
didn't even know that was
T-Mobile,
a thing. So
you know what you did.
You know what you did. So is that essentially how you ended up in the mainland?
Yes, because I knew that California was a lot for my parents. Like, I wouldn't be able to go to California.
Yeah.
But my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, lived in Glendale. And so I knew I could come to Utah.
Yeah.
And then we would meet up in Utah and hang out and go on dates and stuff. But that was kind of our middle ground is Utah. So he had lots of family here. I had lots of family here, and we could come here and be boyfriend and girlfriend in Utah.
Right. How is it being a girl mom?
Oh man, they're all so different. Like, my oldest is the most amazing 11-year-old. She's very smart and intuitive, so she can read the room well, and she's very motherly, which I wasn't until I was a mom. So
right.
I mean,
are you conscious of like your middle daughter possibly having middle child syndrome?
You know, she might, but my middle daughter and I are really close.
Okay.
So she's only 7. She's only 7, but we're tight. Like, she's a mommy's girl all the way. My oldest is, you know, she's both mommy and daddy's girl, but my youngest, daddy's girl all the way. Like, she will kiss him goodnight and just totally forget about me. Like, right. And that lady over there, you know. Yeah. So,
well, I wonder where like the middle child syndrome thing really, really, really interests me, because every single trait that I read about a middle child, like, literally my sister, not to like blast my sister, but I've also seen it like firsthand in like other families of like someone I'm close to, you know, having an older son, and it's just that older son for years, and then they have a second child, and then that second child becomes the baby and is treated like the baby, and then the third child comes, and I don't want to say like the second child is like forgotten about, but like that, you know, youngest child then becomes the new baby, and the middle child is watching, you know, and observing, and like, oh, I'm not getting maybe as much time from my mom, or so I don't know. It's just like super intriguing to me. But
that is my daughter's science project that she just had, that she gave me like 3 days notice of, was so she chose the topic with her teacher, and it was, does family size affect self-worth?
Ooh.
Which at first I was like, what kind of science project is this? Because I was telling her, why couldn't you have chosen a science project that we can do last minute? It's
right.
Like, which soap?
How to power up a light bulb.
Yeah, like anything easy. I was like, you know, this involves interviewing people.
Yeah.
So we have to find. I was like, why would you give me this with 3 days notice? That doesn't even. But I reached out to everyone on Facebook. I was like, if you guys don't want my daughter to get grounded, please help her with this survey. And it was so interesting finding that, because I was thinking that the bigger the family size, the lesser self-worth. That was actually her hypothesis, was the bigger the family, the less self-worth.
That's interesting.
Because there was a scale, it's called Rosenberg's self-worth scale, and so it was interesting to see. We didn't collect anyone's names, you know, that way we can get real answers. And the scale is 1 to 30.
With 30 being
the highest.
Okay.
Like, you have a higher self-worth. So I took it and I got a 29, and I was like, that sounds about right. And so I was telling my daughter, I was like, you know what? I think me and my siblings, I think we're all going to have the same score. So how about we just, you know, chalk it up to 6, you know, 7 times this. And then she's like, well, we just have to get real scores. 165 people filled it out for my sweet daughter.
You go, daughter.
I was like, okay, you guys care. And
obviously a soft point for a lot of people, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And it was so crazy to see that in the bigger families, it was higher self-worth.
Bigger families were higher self-worth.
Yeah. And the smaller families. So I expected the smaller families, because it's like one-on-one almost. 3 kids to 4 kids.
We're like, really low.
We're lower.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So kind of middle ground. Yeah. Then I thought of bigger families having like more siblings. So you kind of take care of each other.
That's true.
Socially.
That's true.
I don't know. Like,
you almost have like a little community that you're growing up with.
So after that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, like bigger families. And so.
Well, I always thought, like, this might be a hot take, but I just feel like at a certain point, it almost becomes selfish to keep having
kids. Does. Okay. Yes, I agree. As
Yeah.
somebody who is capping out at 3 kids, only because I know me.
Yeah.
I know me, and I know that my attention span is only getting
Smaller
and smaller as I get older.
Yeah.
And I feel like it would be a disservice to my kids if I know me. For me, I can handle 3, but like some days is like, okay.
Yes. I find it very interesting, because just seeing me, I don't want kids. I don't think I want kids. I think I'd be an amazing dad, but I don't think I will ever have kids. Mm-hmm. But I look at like maybe bigger poly families, and like no shade, but like you can't possibly, in my opinion, show each and every individual child once you pass a certain amount of children like the same like love and attention. You just can't, as much as parents try. And so that's interesting, but it also makes sense as to the more siblings, the higher the self-worth, because they have that little community around them, and it doesn't necessarily have to come from their parents. The birth order would be interesting to find out,
because you never know. The older ones might feel differently from the younger ones.
I know for sure the older, because I'm the youngest, but I'm only the youngest of 3, and there's just a clear difference between like the oldest, my brother, and like me in like every way, but like I feel like even in like a responsibility type of way, like the oldest usually in terms of birth order is usually the most responsible, and the one that felt like a second parent, and then here's youngest child me just out here in the world being crazy and going to jail,
doing as I please.
Exactly.
The world is my oyster.
It's kind of sad actually to watch like my older sibling, I guess I have 2, but really I only speak to one, like age. I don't know. It's like kind of weird. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I literally have an old brother.
Yeah.
We have this beautiful box here. The concept behind Dunked, first of all, I like absolutely love.
Our company was inspired by my husband.
Oh, really?
Who makes cookies. So him and his family had their own secret chocolate chip recipe. So it's not like we were like, what should we get into? No. He was already making cookies. The cookies were bomb. Everyone always loved them. When we first incorporated it to our Lihimui candy business.
Yes, I remember that. Oh, yes, talk about that, because you got, I guess we'll back up a little bit. But
well, I guess we should start there.
Yeah.
At the beginning of 2020, right before COVID,
I remember.
My youngest girl turned 1, and we were doing an island theme, and I was looking for places that sold island candy from Hawaii, and there was none. So I felt like, okay, it sounds easy. I can make it. And after experimenting successfully, we ended up making a whole bunch of candies. And my oldest daughter was like, we should make a business out of this.
Wait a minute. Those little cookies that you sold. Yeah. I remember those, like it was a chocolate macadamia nut.
Yeah. Well, that one was, we did chocolate chip.
So that was your husband's recipe.
That was OG. Yeah. And then we did a different version with Reese's peanut butter chips, milk chocolate chips, and macadamia
nuts. What is so funny? I never put 2 and 2 because I was a big fan of Lorianne's treats, you know, I would order the hurricane popcorn and the lihimoy and also the cookies I love. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that was actually you guys until like after you had delivered me that big box of cookies. I was like, oh, this is the same girl.
This is the same girl. She's selling something different now. Yeah. So we ended up, bless my husband's heart. So we started the business. It was going very, very well. It was just a side hustle for me as a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And my daughter came up with the idea, and she wanted to name it Lorianne's Island Treats. That's her first name.
Yep.
And so after like a few weeks of running the business, I decided we should sell my husband's cookies. Mind you, at that time, he was working because COVID shifts were weird. So he was working like 2 weeks straight or something, and then 1 week off or something like that. And he just finished a 12-hour shift, and now he's got to make these cookies. And at first, when we introduced the cookies, we were doing Google Forms, and there's no cap on Google Forms, or at the time there wasn't.
Yeah.
We had 75 orders of mini cookies, and each mini cookie order had 15 cookies in there.
Wow.
And I was like, I
remember those. They're amazing.
And so he didn't complain or nothing. He just made 75 orders of 15 mini cookies. And I remember that first day being so overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not even baking anything, but he was I was overwhelmed at the response. It was amazing. We ended up being so delayed in that drop because we used to do drops in Target parking lot. So if you ever if you hear anyone, say, "Oh yeah, I used to buy cookies when they were in Target parking lot." Right. That's what they're talking about.
Just find the black truck.
Yeah, find the black truck, and so we were delayed like an hour. Bless those customers' heart. We had like 40 cars of customers pull up to our place so we lived on campus where he used to work.
Yeah.
This is COVID shutdown. It's a facility for troubled kids. So there shouldn't be anyone other. Right. And then they see like 40 cars pull up, and it's just our customers waiting patiently for their order, and everyone was
that's
so
amazing,
nice.
though, to see.
And I'm just going down there with our little wagon, nervous as heck, like anxiety on level 10, because I'm like, I just made all these customers wait. I from Hawaii, or I purely operate on island time, which my husband hates. If I'm on time for anything, it's 100% due to my husband. And so that was when I realized, okay, maybe we should do cookies separate. So that's the first time it came into my head, like, okay, these can be two independently successful businesses. Yeah. Like, duly noted. Okay.
Oh, I missed those little mini cookies.
Yeah. And then as we kept going, the cookies would sell out all the time. And so we're like, okay, we need to separate it. Let's just do it differently. But I was just thinking we would separate it and it would just be another island cookie company, Yeah. And then Halloween, my husband had his first heart attack. It was then where I was like, okay, we need to make this cookie company happen, but it needs to be something more like his aesthetic. Like it doesn't, I just needed it to have a theme, not so much because it needed a theme, but I felt like I wanted to pay homage to everything that he grew up around, and it would make more sense because it's really something that he does. At that point, I didn't bake a single cookie. I didn't bake anything. I just made the candies. Yeah. And so fast forward a year, 2021, he had his second heart attack. And I was like, okay. And it's because of a heart condition called cardiomyopathy. So stress can trigger his heart attacks. And he worked in the mental health field. He was stressed all the time, every time. Yeah. So I was like, all right, we really need to make this cookie company happen. We're going to call it Dunked Cookies, which I actually thought it would have been done. I was like, duh, because they have Nike Dunks, they dunk a basketball, and they dunk cookies.
Right. Like, it's such a common word.
It's such a common word. Yeah. But so I thought of it. I ran it by him, and he thought, oh, that's pretty tight. Because when he was a kid, he would buy his sneakers, and then he would use the box for like pictures and like memories.
Genius idea. People keep their shoe boxes as decoration. Like a keepsake,
yeah. And so we're like, heck yeah, we'll run with that. That's pretty much how the concept was born. Everything is revolved around what my husband loves. His recipe is the OG. Okay. And then I was
Wait, is that OG cookie the same mini cookies?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just bigger. But he's always made mini cookies. That was his thing, was mini cookies. So just how you had it for Lorian's Island Treats, that was his cookie. I told him, let's make a second cookie. Who didn't bake. I was like, how about we make a second cookie? And that's the one that you're talking about. It had macadamia nuts and Reese's peanut butter chips. Yeah, that one.
You know why I think I loved it too is because it just gave me the vibe of like Cookie Corner in Hawaii.
Yes, which I love. I love
nice
Cookie
spot.
Corner.
Shout out to Cookie Corner. Obviously, the whole idea for drops came from because you guys were doing drops for Lorian Treats, and then you guys started doing drops for cookies.
Yes.
And then how did explain the process of how the drops turned into now you guys have your physical location?
Okay, so Lorian's Island Treats was invited to take part in a dessert festival, the first of its kind here in Utah, called Sugar High.
I wanted to go to that so bad. Okay,
but then I was like, we got the invitation like August. Yeah. And Dunked Cookies wasn't anything but a pending trademark application. Right. And I told them, I have another company that I can bring. And they were like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, it's a cookie company. Mind you, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had no plan. I had a concept in my head and I was just running with it like it was for real. And they were so nice. They're like, yeah, you can bring the cookie company. It ended up being, you know what? Lorian's Honey Treats can't make it, but Dunked Cookies can make it. Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. And so I was like, don't worry. We'll make sure to wow you. Again, having no idea. And then I had this concept in my head. All right, I want it to look like elevated urban experience. Right. I knew I wanted a mural. Could I afford a mural? Absolutely not. I couldn't afford the concept in my head, but I felt like if I just put it out there, it'll happen, you know? So I remember writing a message to Manusina Art. Shout out to LJ and Sandra Fuima Ono. I just like verbally vomited in the in his DMs, in their DMs, like, okay, this is what my idea. I would love to see if we could work together. Just let me know your rate. Honestly, I was just like, let me know your rate, as if I had it. I didn't have anything. And so
let me know your rate. Please be cheap.
No. And then, but I knew like whatever his rate was, it would be worth it. I wanted to pay what he was worth because I wanted him to know I was serious. Yeah. And so I just, sent that message, and I was so surprised when they responded back, and they're like, we love your idea. Of course we'd help you. And then they gave me the pricing. They gave me a range of the pricing. I didn't let them know, like, I don't have anything, but I was just like, I'm going to make this work. And so I took my little shoe boxes. At that time we had gotten samples, which only took like 4 days. And I took it to my dad, and I did like a little Shark Tank presentation. And he was like, all right. And my dad's totally football, no basketball. And he was like, all right, I'll give you $5,000 to fund, your stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, I'll take it.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So everything was, building Dunked was like credit cards and like,
maxing shit out. Been there, done that.
So because I had this dream, and I was like, I feel like it's going to work. Like and then just getting the excitement from LJ and Sandra, I was like, oh, maybe I have something here. I did it in my brain, knowing nothing about construction, knowing nothing about like portability of walls. Like I knew nothing. I just designed it, and LJ executed it, and it was like a dream.
At Sugar High.
And
that was your first ever
Our
Dunked.
first ever debut of Dunked. And from start to finish, it was like 16 days. Like from concept to fruition was like...
Shout out LJ.
So our whole setup was DIY, literally. But you could not tell. I mean, maybe someone.
Well, because I've seen the pictures from your Sugar High event. That to me was blowing my mind. I didn't know that was your first one.
That was our very first debut, introduction to the world, Dunked Cookies. And so, I just thought, man, this we did in such a short period of time, and the concept was so amazing. So we ended up winning like the People's Choice. We were a nobody
at the Sugar High.
Oh, there was all the.
Okay, so is this an annual thing that happened?
It was, but they stopped after Crumble became the main sponsor. It was just so amazing, just being there. We all worked hard. We're so tired. No one was getting paid. We were just literally doing this because, I have an idea. Let's run with it. And I found other delusional, loving people to run dream, along. To run with it. And so
that's the type of people that you need in your corner, because also like for me, how you're saying it, like just to see your idea go from just an idea to on a screen, now someone's putting it together. For me, like when I developed my first physical product, that was the most satisfying thing for me, seeing that idea come straight from my brain on a screen. Now I'm holding it in person is like more so than any online business that you could start, because it's like tangible. You can see it and feel it. Where do you think your drive comes from? Because, you just spoke about like you didn't know how you were going to make it happen, but you did. Like, where does that come from?
Okay, I might cry. But so growing up in Hawaii, I'm the first generation Tongan American. My grandma and her sister, they would make bracelets and weave baskets for tourists at the Dole factory.
Okay.
The one in Wahiawa?
Yes.
It's been a long time, Hawaii. Don't revoke my card. And they would sit for hours on the hard floor on a fala mat and just weave. And then a little backstory is my dad's side, they're from Ewa. And my dad grew up like a little prince in Ewa. They left all of that just to move to America for a chance at a better life for their kids, And so just witnessing that, it was, you have to be great. Your ass better be great, or at least die trying, because they sacrificed all of that for you. You better take advantage of like all the opportunities that come your way, because that's what they sacrificed it for. So for me, I will always do my best at pretty much everything I try, because I have no choice but to. It would be such a slap in the face if I didn't.
Right.
So
it's almost like a gift that they gave you,
yeah,
you know?
And I didn't want to squander any opportunity. So for me, at anything I do, if you know me, all my friends, like, I just am extra with almost everything, you know, and it's just because I feel like if I'm going to do anything, even if it's something for at home, like if you're familiar with me, I go all out for Halloween and Christmas for my girls, and not in a way of, we don't have money. So like that. So not in that way, but creatively we'll always have a theme for Halloween and a theme for Christmas.
Yep. And
I go all out, on creating an experience for our girls, because in the big boxes that I wrap their presents in, I mean, it's just inexpensive things, but the fact that they have that whole experience, and that's something I can give them that no amount of money can buy, that no one else can give to them. I'm hoping that it's a gift for them, to also remember, oh, my mom was creative. I want to be creative too,
right,
you know?
Right.
And so, but that's where I feel like my drive comes from, is witnessing we call them both my grandmas, going through that hard work, working day in, day out for pennies. And I don't have a choice but to be great, because they sacrifice so much for me. So,
that's beautiful. And I feel like I grew up here, obviously in the mainland, but I have many friends who grew up in the islands, and it resonates. It's the same, you know. I feel like, I hate to admit this, but I don't have maybe the appreciation that, you know, my friends that didn't grow up in this country have. You know, they come here and they now see that, oh my God, I can do anything. Like, my parents sacrificed all of this for me to be here, when I've just been here my whole life. So maybe I take it for granted a little bit, even in the way that I think. But I think that that's also why we have so many people that come here from different countries and make it to the top faster than people who have been here their whole life.
And I feel like that's also a special thing about Hawaii, because it's kind of a gateway. Like, it's right in the middle of America, first world country,
but kind of still
and
their
then
own
third world country of like Tonga, and you know. And so that's one reason I feel like it's a magical place, because I experienced that firsthand, seeing that struggle and then learning from that struggle. And then I also want to figure out a way, like, how can I show my girls so that they don't lose it, you know?
Right.
And so I feel like with working Dunked, like, if you ask my youngest daughter, she's like, my mom works at Dunked. Like, it doesn't it doesn't register with her that we own Dunked, but she's like, oh yeah, my mom, like, she'll randomly blurt out, oh yeah, my mom, she works at Dunked. Which I told people I'm the janitor anyway, but I'm like, this struggle that I'm going through with starting Dunked from, you know, because my babies were a lot younger when we started to now. And I mean, I feel like that growth is so big. It's only been like 3 years, but
which it seems like so much longer, you know, even from conception, when you were just doing little drops of cookies, like, it seems like
a whole decade ago. That's what it feels like.
It seems like I was like 12 years old when that.
And so just like, I'm bringing in my kids to see, like, there is struggle here. Yeah. It is not a cakewalk. You know, there's ups and downs. You know, there's so many different things that factor into it. So I like that they see my struggle, because one, it's real. Right. No facade here. But I also want them to appreciate, like, Dunked, wherever it goes, to the moon, to it's international.
Going to the moon, baby.
I want them to appreciate the journey that it took to get there, so that they don't sit on their high horse one day and like, oh yeah, we own. No. Yeah. There was so many blood, sweat, and tears to go in to growing this business, that hopefully they'll be able to, it'll be like a legacy that I leave for them that creates wealth for generations.
Yes,
and all that
exactly.
stuff.
And I feel like you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Entrepreneurship, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is not a route for everybody. But to witness like your parents start something and watch that grow from conception, I can just imagine how that like makes children feel, and I talk a lot about privilege. The word privilege gets thrown out a lot when it comes to color, but in my opinion, I think privilege has more so to do with like the mentality of the family you're growing up in, right? Like I have friends from all over, from every tax bracket, right? And my friends that are super wealthy and have kids, and they also own businesses, their kids are watching their parents literally do anything they want, rather than me, I guess, growing up in West Valley, working class family. I'm not saying I didn't receive support from my family, but it was never like, you could do anything. Or when I throw an idea out there, it was probably just like laughed at. So for me, privilege is a way of thinking, I feel.
For sure.
Definitely.
I feel like there's such a huge difference in kids that think they can't do anything. Just that glimmer of hope or like possibility,
right.
like their imagination.
Well, you can't become what you don't see,
Yeah.
And
so for us to like, my husband and I are big on encouraging our kids to try whatever, I feel that amongst Polynesians, it's common because my parents or anyone who's left the island, like Tonga, Samoa or something, like the normal route of, okay, you go to school, you go to get good grades, go to college, get a good job. That's the ticket out from that island,
right.
And I feel like it gets passed down, that frame of mind, like, oh, go to school,
even when they're already here.
Yes. And
that's
so,
interesting. I never thought of it like
I graduated from college from BYU, Hawaii, my bachelor's of science degree in international business management in 2006.
Okay, I did not know that.
So, because my dad said when he realized that my husband proposed to me, my dad was like, well, she can't get married until she graduates from college. And so I graduated 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
So it's 2.5 years later that I graduated and got my degree. And then we got married a year after. But I always laugh and told him, like, if you didn't want me to get married, you should have just said I got to go on a mission. Then we would just be living and sitting. I'm just kidding. But I graduated from college and only went that route because I wanted to get married to my husband.
That is so funny.
So everything that I'm learning now in business, like I don't remember anything from college. I just did it just so because I could. Yeah. And like my grades were good. I think I graduated like a 3.018, which was terrible to my parents. And so, but that was the route I took because I had to satisfy what their ideal was of, progressing in life.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that because this is something I bring up. I think I brought this up in my past 2 podcast guests, but do you feel like to a certain point, like the traditions, I guess they're not traditions, but our culture can like hold us back to some degree from doing what we want or reaching for the stars? Because like my take on like Polynesians, we're so respectful, right, of our elders, and whatever our elders say or expect of us, we're probably going to try to appease that. Yeah. Rather than going against the grain and doing what we want, to do in life. Do you feel like at a certain point our culture can hold us back from progressing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like it's kind of depending on the person, because I feel like if someone is not disciplined enough to be able to handle the entrepreneurial route or the exploring route or, I feel like it will do them good to go the traditional route first and then embark on whatever
Interesting,
after.
Yeah.
But I feel for myself, I feel like, damn, I could have just skipped steps, like if you just let me be great from the beginning, I feel like I would have had such a head start.
Dunks would have been 10 years old,
I feel like I would, because I felt that my creativity, and I always say this, is my creativity is my currency. Like my creativity will put me in places that my pockets never would have been able to. Yeah. I feel like if we're talking money, I definitely probably wouldn't get a seat at the table. But if we're talking creativity, I will have more than enough for the whole
And I can
table.
vouch for that. And that is absolutely what I love about you. Like, just if you ever get the chance to talk to this girl, like your ideas are like You're probably the biggest dreamer that I know in my life personally. Like, just you reach for the stars, you know, because they're possible. It's possible.
And I'm not afraid to fail. So I feel like, okay, because one thing I got from my dad, Coach Siwaki Levi, is
I know that name.
Yeah, that's my dad. Is I don't care what other people think of me. Like, I don't, not so much like, I don't want you to like my cookie. Like, I care, like, I don't care. Your perception of me doesn't change my perception of me.
1000%.
So I'm confident in my own skin, like in myself, in my capabilities. I feel like that's probably where I'm strongest, is I'm confident in my capabilities and my creativity. And so I'm also not afraid to fail. Like, Dunk could still, you know, who knows? I mean, God forbid. But, you know, if it doesn't work out, I'll still feel like,
what's next?
My creativity has no boundaries. Actually, like, I don't like baking, guys. I don't like baking cookies. I'm the whole creative part of Dunked, but I made it happen because I wanted something for our family. You know, I wanted to take my husband out of his stressful work environment. So I made that happen. Like, and so I always tell my husband, I was like, could you imagine if I actually liked what I was doing?
What were you doing prior?
I mean, like, if I like baking, and because there's people who have so much love for baking and cooking, and
just not you.
Not me. I did it. So people have cute stories about why they started a bakery. I don't have a cute story. This was pure hustle, and I needed it. It was out of necessity. Yeah. That purely necessity. Like, I'm trying to hustle out here. But at the same time that I'm hustling and making an effort to make a brand, I'm also making sure that the product matches the brand that I created. So we actually did it reverse. Like, so we made sure all the recipes were hitting first. And I wanted to make sure that the brand is actually the afterthought. Even though people think about it,
the opposite
brand first. Yes. Yeah. For me, I was like, it makes no sense to make a junk cookie and a beautiful brand. Right. It had to be equally amazing. But yeah, for me, I don't enjoy baking. So shout out to our bakers at Dunked. Val, you're the best. And so, but I always just tell people, like, it's not the end for me. Like, if Dunked were to fail miserably, I will take it in the chin and I will create something else. You better believe I.
And it's that knowing that you just have. And I feel like I also have that too, where it's like, whatever goes wrong, like, if this is not the path, then next we're on to the next thing. Yeah. And we have to be like that almost. You know, we can't be naive to think like, this is going to be an amazing idea, because just like you said, and I talk about this all the time, all you have to keep doing is just trying. It all just starts with tries. You try this, didn't work out, try another thing, and eventually you're going to try one thing that changes your whole life, and then you're going to be like, okay, well, now I know I just have to keep trying, so what else is next, you know? Amazing trait that entrepreneurs have. And how do you find balance of like being a mom? And I know, you know, there might not actually be balance between.
There's no balance. If someone found that balance, you're a liar. Just kidding. But my husband is freaking amazing. Like, he is the best. He is a short order cook for my girls. Like, he makes sure that the house is in order. He takes them to and from school. So I feel like the balance is in my relationship with my husband more than I could ever provide for my girls. Like, it's not a one person thing. I feel like it's a whole family unit kind of thing for me, at least, because I mean, like I said earlier, I didn't want kids growing up. Obviously, when I had my own, I was like, oh, they're so cute. Let's just
they're
stop
all
at
right.
3.
We could keep them.
But for me, I feel like my husband is he's the real GOAT, because he allows it so that I can go out there and experiment. Like, how scary it must be for him, as 1, he was a provider. 2, he grew up in a traditional, you know, home where it was like, you go to work, you know, you provide for your family, you come back, you work your 9 to 5. And so for him to have enough faith in me to be like, let's just forget our jobs. Let's just forget your job and what you're good in and specialize in. And let's try to
bake cookies.
And so just the courage it took for him to be like, all right, like my wife is just going to do her thing. I just love and respect him so much because he didn't have to, it's so uncomfortable for him, but he sees how much potential it has.
Yeah.
And even just me going out there, I know that, he understands that for me to be the best mom to my girls, which is different for everyone, but for me, it's to show them this, like, entrepreneurship, like
absolutely,
outside of the house. Like I was a stay-at-home mom before I started the side hustle with Lorianne's Island Treats, and I was just so antsy, and I was just telling him, like, I just have so many ideas and so many things I would love to run with that I would hate to just like have it go to waste. Like, I would much rather try to work it out and stuff, which is scary for him because it's so new to him, but yeah, he's my balance. Without him, there's no balance.
There is power in being a stay-at-home mom as well.
Yeah.
But there's also power in showing your kids that they can start and do whatever they want. And so what is like the biggest lesson that you've learned, like in business so far?
I feel like I'm such a control freak, and it's just me learning how to let go of some things. Like, okay, self-diagnosed. So don't judge me. I have Google. ADHD, OCD, all of that. And so for me, I love things the way that I love things. And so it's not like easy to train. Like it could be interpreted as, micromanaging, but I mean,
right.
who are we to judge? but just me learning to let go of the reins a little, because, while still protecting the integrity of Dunk Cookies. And so I've had to learn to, okay, let's just take a step back, and then let's just learn to
relinquish control. And that's something that I still low-key struggle with. You overcome that, because for me, it's like, I guess it comes from the thought that this business that we have and love so much and started by ourselves from the ground up is ours, and if we relinquish control, then the quality of our business or the quality of our product somehow or service starts to go down, and then it reflects bad on you. At the end of the day, I feel like business it has to eventually become a collaborative effort between you and other people. Like, you can't take a business by yourself to the stars. You need a team. You need support,
Shout out to our Dunk team. You
shout
guys are
out
the
to
best.
the Dunk team. What is one thing that you wish you knew about business before starting, or a regret that you have?
I wish I knew what it took to open a shop. It's like no joke.
Physically.
Financially. I remember physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally. Like, there have been plenty of times where I'm crying. There's some days when we first opened, like, it's busy. But there's some days, there was a holiday, I forget. One holiday, it was like dead. We sold like $90 or something, which is nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, And so just realizing the ups and the downs, but not in just one. It's like there are peaks and valleys in so many different aspects, and sometimes it could just be a week of L's in several different categories, and just being resilient to that. Like, I already knew I needed to be resilient as a new business owner, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like just the gravity of everything hitting at once. And this is like, all right,
it's testing.
It's testing.
Trying. Are you guys planning to open new locations, expand? What's next?
I would love to expand. We're taking our time, making sure we do everything right. We're not sure if we want to move into franchising. We're just taking it really slow, because whatever we do, our main objective, at least for my husband and I, is, do we want to get really rich from this? Of course. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But we also want to make as many families rich along with us. Like, I want to take as many people to the moon with us as possible. If Dunk can do that. I don't need it to be on every corner. I do want it to be international for sure.
Yes.
And so.
Where?
Everywhere. But we would like to get to Dubai.
Yes.
That's always been a dream. to Riyadh, Australia, New Zealand. I didn't know.
Yes, dunked in New Zealand. I'm there.
Australia. So we have our customers are amazing, and so our cookies have already been to the Olympics in Paris.
Oh wow.
It's been to Mexico. It's been to New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, overseas for, we can't say where, but overseas for servicemen, like in the military.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And
I love
so
that.
it's so fun. We had a couple, I didn't get to meet them, but my staff said the couple flew in from Oregon or Seattle just to buy cookies and leave. We have a lot of customers drive all the way from like Layton, like far north to far south. They drive all the way to visit us. So it just warms my heart. Like, it makes me feel so good and proud, but still wanting to continue to, okay, let's still share whatever the special thing we got going on with Dunked. We'd love to put it every part of the world.
Yes. I feel like there's just always something about you, even back when the Lorians, I was buying the popcorn and the lihimoy shit and the cookies. I've just always, and maybe it was your drive now that like I've known you as a friend now for the past couple years, that just like drew me towards you. Aww. Because you're like such a light, and I hope you never stop following your ideas and your dreams, and I hope you take this as far as I know it can go.
Thank you so much.
If there is one thing you want people to take away from you, your story, your business, what do you think that would be wrapping up?
Tap into your creativity and lean into it, and just make things happen. I feel like everyone can bring so much good into the world if they just allow themselves to be, whatever God intended you to be. So lean into it and don't be scared of failing. We're all going to fail at something. Every now and then it's part of learning. And I feel like it's a way to refine whatever it is you're meant to do. And it'll just help your journey here in life.
Beautiful. Well, Lieta, thank you for coming on and taking the time. And just, I guess, let people know where they can find you. Obviously, their physical location is in Saratoga Springs, Utah, but you ship nationwide.
We ship nationwide. We cater. We send to clients. If you're in that, if you're in charge of gifting or anything, we got you. But you can find us at dunkcookies.com or in Saratoga Springs.
Love you so much. And I'm just so excited to watch your journey. And one day you're going to be huge. I just know it.
Oh, thank you so much. We love you so much too.